What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Range Talk. My name is not Cisco.
And I am not Isaiah. Is this just going to be the...
This is going to be our normal routine because I'm going to keep wanting to start off with my name is Cisco, so it's the only solution I could have come up with. But
That's hilarious.
today is going to be kind of like a part two, Revenge of the Sith, if you will. That's three. That's three. This is going to be Empire Strikes Back, if you will, of yesterday's episode, when we talked about what not to do with your airsoft AEGs. We're going to be basically doing the same thing, but what not to do with your airsoft gas blowback. Whether that be a rifle or a pistol, really doesn't matter what platform, just as long as it's a gas blowback. Let's get into this. So, first things foremost, some of the easiest things that you should not be doing with your gas blowback rifles, right? I think yesterday's number one topic, or number one thing that was like the prettiest, easiest thing to hit was don't use bad BBs. Now, that can apply to pretty much any airsoft gun, whether it be AEG or gas blowback.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of things that will apply from the AEG. Like this MGC4 Mark II. Beautiful. Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Is it shameless? It's my gun.
No, it's our channel. What's people are like, oh, you guys sold out. It's like,
this is our gun.
We're a store, my guy. Like, what are you talking about?
No, but yeah, a lot of the things can transfer over from regular AEGs into gas blowback pistols and rifles. The main thing that you need to know is that with gas blowback platforms, you have to maintain them much more frequently.
Yeah.
Right. So what you said about bad BBs, that's absolutely correct. So the main difference between a gas blowback pistol or rifle compared to an AEG is that the AEG has the hop-up unit that is pushing the BBs in, or has the magazine that's pushing the BBs into the hop-up unit. And when it's in the hop-up unit, it's kind of just being held there by the walls of the hop-up unit, right? So the air nozzle just comes through and pushes it into the hop-up unit, shooting it. As to where a gas blowback pistol or rifle, the magazines or the BBs are held in by the magazine. So there are these things called feedlets, and what happens is as the bolt or the nozzle is coming forward, there's actually a post that is pushing the BB into the hop-up unit and loading it for it to be fired.
For a better example to go ahead and see it, you can go ahead and take a look at pretty much any gas blowback airsoft pistol, right?
Yep.
See this little loading nozzle right here?
Go ahead, hold it a little closer.
Yeah, we're gonna put it. So this little, it might be hard because it's black right there, but loading nozzle right there has a literal like ramp underneath the nozzle like unit itself. That's part of it that will literally load the BB. Hence the term loading nozzle. Will load it into the hop-up chamber, right?
Yep.
So that's going to be the same for pretty much gas blowback rifles as well. But yeah, most pistols are going to operate using the exact same function or the exact same mechanics.
Yeah, and the reason why using high quality BBs is more important is because before it even gets fired, before the BB even gets fired through the airsoft gun, is the nozzle pushing it into the hop-up unit. And if it is a really bad BB, it could immediately shatter and go into the hop-up unit, go into the nozzle, all those shards of BBs.
Just basically going to explode the first time it makes contact with the loading nozzle, which has happened. It does happen very frequently when you use bad BBs.
Absolutely. And unlike the jams and things with the gearbox that we talked about, this can get a little bit more, I don't want to say severe.
Oh no, I will use severe.
But yeah, because all those BBs, they're not being contained in the hop-up chamber and barrel. Because it's happening before it even loads in, it could go into other parts of the airsoft gun. It can go into like the trigger control.
Or even depending on the gas blowback. Yeah, and even depending on the gas blowback system that you have, right, it can actually mess up like the hop-up chamber entirely, right? Like the KWA, the old school, like the original like spec was notorious, right, for having a little bit of an issue with the hop-up chamber. Like just if you weren't like on it cleaning it regularly, even with good BBs, it can still jam.
Yeah. So where the magazine or where the BB would be loading into the gun is going to be about right here. But because of the way that the nozzle system was working, and I know I just zucked myself because I closed that with the spring. Dang it. Dang it. Rookie mistake, Cisco. What are you doing with your life? Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna hold this down there for the time.
Yeah.
So the way that the BB is moving in, it could shatter and then be dispersed within the upper and lower receiver. Again, getting into the bolt carrier group, getting into the trigger group, getting into the hop-up unit, around the hop-up unit, in the barrel, you know, just everywhere where it shouldn't be.
Okay? Yeah.
And
You know that you've owned like multiple gas books, but you've owned the original LM4 series.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know exactly where you get like that double feeding that issue, like, and it ends up like jamming up on the hopper chamber. So with this one's my personal LM4 that I run, right? If you don't clean this bad boy fairly regularly, the hop up like unit itself, like it's really using these like teeth to go, and you have to move them in one direction or another in order to go and adjust the hop, right?
One Direction.
Yeah, One Direction. There you go. Love them. Love them. If it doesn't get cleaned very regularly, and I do mean regularly, what can end up happening is that the BB will end up like not going straight center, and it ends up going to the left, to the right, and it ends up causing like a jam, and it just shatters right in there, right? And it can end up causing like a buildup of BBs if you don't clean it out immediately, right? And it can just keep piling on and piling on and piling on.
Yep.
That kind of leads into the second thing, where if you do end up getting a jam on any airsoft gun, gas blowback or AEG, don't keep firing or don't keep trying to shoot. It's not going to work.
Actually, could you grab a Lonely unjamming rod?
Yeah.
That way I can fix my gun too.
No,
no, yeah. So
did you actually jam it?
Well, so when I closed it, unfortunately, I forgot with the MWS, it will shoot. Actually, I do believe this happens with the LM4 as well. It will shoot the buffer into the upper receiver.
Oh, okay.
I mean, here's one thing that you should definitely do: know how to take apart your airsoft gun. Hey, Woo, can you grab me an unjamming rod?
I don't know where it is.
I got it.
FNG. But yeah, so obviously knowing how to take apart your airsoft gun and being very careful. As you can see, I'm a well-experienced guy, but even I make mistakes like this in trying to show you how to disassemble your airsoft gun. Every airsoft gun is going to be different. Thank you. But the functionality of each airsoft gun is going to be relatively the same.
All right, so you guys missed out, but Cisco had to perform pinpoint surgery on his MWS, and we were about ready to hold a funeral for him, but thankfully he got it up and running again.
Yeah, so even again, guys, what I just said, know how to take apart your airsoft gun. I made the dumb rookie mistake for closing it, but I forgot that there is actually a release knob here.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it happens.
Oh yeah,
happens to the best. Happens to the best of us. So make sure that you look up the manual of your airsoft gun.
Hell, even the YouTube tutorial.
Yeah, the YouTube tutorial, the breakdown videos. More than likely, it's going to exist out there. But yeah, using poor quality BBs can affect everything in the airsoft gun, which is very, very detrimental, because a BB that gets lodged into the nozzle here, there's the moving part inside there. There's the gasket / piston head that drives the air and the bolt back and everything.
Which, by the way, Unicorn Airsoft, we do sell their upgraded components for all those MWS.
Actually,
as well.
My MWS actually has the samples that we got.
Oh, so that's where they went.
So I will say, the boss man gave me approval.
I was like, oh,
I will say that they do perform very nice, even with the magazine and the feed lips. Mm-hmm. They're pretty damn good. But yeah, just knowing how your airsoft gun works will dramatically make your
experience a lot better.
Exactly. It's because, again, this is something that you're going to need to maintain more frequently. So for me personally, whenever I use a gas blowback system, I use it for the day, and immediately after the day, I clean it.
Yeah, you got to get on that shit real quick. Not only that, but adding to that as well, knowing how to disassemble and how to reassemble your gas blowback gun, because again, it's going to be something you need to more frequently do.
Yes.
Is also knowing what spec your gas blowback airsoft gun is. This happened before, where we've had a customer buy. I think they ended up buying one of the Golden Eagle gas blowback rifles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bought one of those, and they went onto the website and they wanted to buy magazines, so they bought LM4 mags, thinking it was compatible. And here's the thing: I actually kind of understand where that's coming from, because again, if you're used to AEGs, right, you're kind of used to the idea that it doesn't really matter necessarily what brand magazines you end up buying for your AEG, because theoretically, again, they should all work, right?
Yep.
As long as you're using just the standard V2 gearbox design, right? They're meant for just a standard AR, M4, M16. They're all going to be cross-compatible regardless of what brand, for the most part.
Yes.
So, but with a gas blowback, unfortunately, that's not always going to be the case. In fact, very little. Most of the gas blowback guns that you see are not necessarily proprietary, but there is an element of proprietariness to it.
Yeah.
Like the Golden Eagles, like I mentioned, right? Those are not using any other spec other than the Western Arm system.
Yep.
Which has been around for a very, very long time. But thankfully, we still sell parts and all the magazines you need for it. But same thing with KWA. KWA is actually using a proprietary system. They can only use KWA brand magazines.
Yep.
Right? Same thing with the Jokeroo.
PTS mags.
Well, okay, but
they made PTS made the magazines for the LM4.
Yes.
So.
And then even with the Tokyo Marui, like MWS, there are magazines you can buy aftermarket. Like Army Armament does make aftermarket magazines for them.
Yep.
And there are other brands coming out with them as well. But again, they're not going to be cross-compatible with each other. They're just a very different design. So knowing what spec you have and what it can take is going to be a very important component to maintaining your gas blowback gun. Because again,
yes,
parts are going to wear down eventually. It's important to know what parts you can replace them with.
Yeah. So even like at first glance, you're just looking at it. So say this is like a product picture. They look very similar.
Oh, yeah.
But once you get into looking at it, the finer details, you'll be able to see there are actually very big differences that would prevent it from working together. So I will show you guys close up on camera so you guys can see it.
It's like that scene in like any sort of crime investigative show when they enhance and they like see it and they zoom in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So this magazine right here is the LM4 magazine, and the magazine right here is going to be the MWS magazine. As you can see, the tops look very different, and that's because the shape of the bolt is different.
Yeah.
The feed lips are going to be slightly different spec. Isaiah, can you hold your hands up so I can focus on this a little bit better? Closer to the magazines. Come on, focus. There it is. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, you can see the feed lips are going to be slightly different. Even the bolt catch latches are going to be different on these magazines as well.
They're just assembled very differently because again, they're designed for two very different systems: the KWA system versus the MWS.
So yeah, but there are companies that do make aftermarket parts for each company. You just have to be aware of what you're throwing into your airsoft gun, making sure. You have to be very, very particular with your gas blowback systems because of all the different just specs. You can't just assume, oh, this gas blowback magazine from X company is going to work in my X company gas blowback.
Because they're both M4s. Like, I understand the logic behind it. I don't fault anyone necessarily for that because even as a beginner, I kind of thought the same thing too. Like, oh, gas blowbacks, that's so cool. You can buy all these different. I thought the same thing, like AEGs, right?
Yep.
But no, it unfortunately isn't, and that goes for external parts sometimes as well. Like again, rail systems for the most part, like should be for the most part interchangeable. But there are some things like maybe selectors that might not actually be cross compatible with other brands as well, right?
Yep.
So that's always going to be another thing too. Just keep an eye out. Just know exactly what your gun is, what spec it can take, because that also again depends on what magazines you can buy, internal parts.
It'll also depend on the tutorial you look up.
Oh yeah,
because if you look up a KWA tutorial for like an LM4D and you're trying to take apart your MWS, it is not the same.
It's not the same shit, man.
It is not, okay? So again, and also this is very important. We recommend this for everyone. Even like in store or talking like direct to person online, just learning about your specific system, the ins and outs of it, so you can self-diagnose it as well. Unlike an AEG where it's pretty much self-contained, even though I would still say if you do it wrong, a gearbox can be a very sensitive system.
Oh yeah, and I feel like there's a lot more, in theory, right, that could go wrong with an AEG compared to a gas blowback gun. For me personally, because again, gas blowbacks do have, even though there are moving parts there, I do feel like there's a lot less moving components comparatively to an AEG.
I would honestly, yeah, it depends on the system because again, there are plenty of different gas blowback systems.
Oh yeah,
WE, GHK's closed bolt, WE's closed bolt, MWS.
I hate that they had
LM4D. You know, there's plenty of different ones. But I would say maybe about the same, give or take.
Okay.
But the moving parts in the gas blowback system could be a little bit more I don't want to say, I guess sensitive is the safe word.
Sure, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Because if there is something wrong in the trigger housing, maybe like when you pull the trigger, the hammer isn't knocking on the magazine release valve properly, that could cause an issue. Or maybe like the bolt is a little bit seized up, so it's not cycling either. You know, there's quite a few more things that you have to look out for in a gas blowback system. And that goes across the board as well. Between a gas blowback rifle and a gas blowback pistol, it's a little bit more streamlined because all of the control components, or not control components, all of the firing components of a gas blowback pistol are in the slide, excluding the hammer, obviously. But you have the hop-up unit, the barrel, the loading nozzle, it all still stays self-contained in here. So whenever the slide is moving backwards, it's functioning as if it would be loading a BB into the gun. So racking the slide or shooting the gun, the slide is going to move back no matter what. As to where a gas blowback rifle, it has an internal bolt system like a real firearm would. So
realism.
Yeah. So with a gas blowback rifle, you have your internal bolt carrier group, just like a real firearm, but this one would be holding a nozzle and what am I doing? Need to.
I was so worried you were gonna do it again.
No, just need to be. No, I threw the. It's because that pin gets kind of locked up. But as you can see, when I pull the charging handle, the bolt moves back and forth. So it's not the entire upper of the gun. That'd be fucking insane with a real gun. But it's not. Well, I guess it's not really linked together in a sense as a gas blowback pistol would, because everything's being held together by the slide in a gas blowback pistol. But the nozzle here is a free system that can be removed without any tools, loading all the BBs into the hop-up unit to fire said airsoft gun. But it's similar and it's not, man. This is such a deep rabbit hole to go into.
I know, I totally get it. But I mean, hey, this is why we do the podcast, right? Like, because again, like, I mean, we have to go a little longer. We can totally go a little long to explain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's, again, just being very particular about what you are using with your airsoft gun.
Out of curiosity, like, I know you said like typically before and after you play is the ideal, right? Whenever you go out and play with your gas blowback rifles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say though that there are some gas blowback rifles that are more tolerant, in your opinion, of like, or have a little bit higher tolerances for dirt, debris, maybe a little bit of gunk than some other brands?
That is a very good question.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, because I have definitely my opinions for sure from what I've seen and witnessed firsthand and what my personal experience.
Yeah.
But I know you've also used pretty much every gas system under the sun. Maybe not GHK. Do you have GHK?
I have not. I've only got to shoot a GHK, which is fun. But
yeah. Oh, dude.
Yeah. But I have not played with one or owned one. I've only got to test fire it. I haven't owned VFC either.
Okay.
I actually haven't even shot a gas blowback VFC rifle.
Taylor's. His old 417.
Oh, his old 417. Okay, I guess that's one. But I didn't get to play with it. So I know Taylor's very meticulous with his airsoft gun, so he makes sure everything's running beforehand.
Yeah.
And will meticulously break it down, which is kind of how I am. I will say that with my original LM4, there have been times where I used it just when I got home. I left it in the gun bag, and then like maybe the week after, like, oh, we're going to airsoft. I was like, all right. And then I'll use it again without cleaning it. And it has worked, and I haven't seen a dramatic decrease in like performance or efficiency.
It's pretty much the same experience that I've had too. Where it's like ideally you're supposed to go ahead and clean this bad boy like every single time before and after you play, right? That is what we all recommend. There's no doubt about it. But I will say I've had that happen to me before too, where I completely forgot to go ahead and do like the normal cleaning. I just brought it out to the field because I was in a rush. And I was like, I don't want to play AEGs. I just want to bring the gas out. And it worked very well without jamming.
So I will say, I think I am much better at maintaining my gas blowback rifles than I am my gas blowback pistols.
Oh, really?
Because I will go maybe like 10, 20 times without cleaning my gas blowback pistol.
And I just want to see what your Glock inside looks
like. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Just
it's like
sludge.
You know, like, have you ever seen the charcoal toothpaste? It look like that in there. It's gunky. And like there are sometimes like it won't cycle properly and it'll get locked up. I have to hit it and and then like on the field, they'll just like spray it down with like silicone oil.
You know, wipe away the old grease before.
See.
I'm supposed to see that.
No, yeah. Well, that is definitely one of those things that I should be doing better. And there was a point where I was doing it.
Yeah.
But for my gas blowback pistols, I do abuse them a lot more. But I believe that allows me to give a better feedback experience for people, even though all of the things that we're going to be talking about today in terms of maintaining your gas blowback rifles and pistols, it's meant to protect the airsoft gun in a long run.
Yeah.
Because I will say, after a few times of shooting my gas blowback pistols without cleaning it. When I do take it apart, I do notice a lot more wear, especially on the rails of the slide.
Where metal and metal are basically like in contact with each other.
Yeah, like when there's no grease there and there's dirt getting in the way, it'll start to like file down itself, and it's pretty bad. Like you'll start to see like this doesn't really move at all, but you'll see a lot more movement because a lot of the material is being grinded off just from natural use. And
I also noticed the loading nozzle too, like can break fairly easily as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's another one that I usually end up like in storefront anyway. We like Brendan and I would have to. I remember for a while too, like around the holidays when people are buying more airsoft guns and they'd buy gas blowback pistols. It's like cool. They'd come back and be like, oh, like maybe a month or two later, like, oh yeah, my nozzle broke. It's like, oh, how long have you been cleaning it? What?
Yeah.
It's like what?
Yeah, that's definitely something that you want to do. So, moving on from poor BBs, we said it last time. We said it a little bit earlier today. Just don't use them.
Yeah.
Using them can be detrimental to the airsoft gun. The shattering and the jamming, terrible. But getting into lubricating your airsoft gun, this will also coincide with cleaning the airsoft gun.
I guess making sure you're using the biggest takeaways are making sure that you use the correct lubrication.
Yes.
Making sure that you're lubricating at a frequent basis.
Yes, absolutely. So there
also
are
like not using enough too. That's another one too.
No, absolutely. So there's actually a lot of different ideas on how to clean and lubricate your airsoft gun. Number one, don't use any lubricants.
Don't use mayonnaise. I gotta say it.
Oh, here's one big thing that this is more from the real firearms side. They'll use real firearm cleaning like lubricants in their airsoft gun. No. Absolutely no.
Like you'd have to read the. I mean, it'd have to be like 100% pure silicone based, and even then, like, be careful because sometimes like there might be like that one additive, right? That maybe is not listed. I doubt that would be the case. If it says 100% pure silicone oil, then you should be okay, right? That generally speaking, just don't use any like the brushes they have to go to clean the actual firearms on an airsoft gun. Again, like we said last time, right? The inner barrels are meant to be smooth. They're not rifled. They're not like twist at any point. They're meant to be 100% smooth. You don't want to grind down material that you shouldn't be, right?
Yeah. So with a gas blowback pistol, we'll start off with this. There are some things that you could take I don't know what type of material, almost like a toothbrush.
Okay.
Where it's like plastic or like nylon, to brush out all the extra gunk from the rails, from the slide area. If you do this, I highly recommend dismantling it completely.
Yeah.
That way you aren't going to be brushing up against any of the plastic or any of the rubber parts in the airsoft gun.
Yeah, because even with like a toothbrush, like the bristles, even if you go with like a softer bristle option, that can still like scratch up and fuck up your like bucking or any other rubber components, any of your seals. That can definitely do some damage there. And that's just not something you'd want to have happen.
Yeah. And on top of that, what Isaiah said about the different type of lubrication that you want for your airsoft gun or use on your airsoft gun, this is actually where a lot of people are.
A lot of people have different opinions.
Yeah, a little bit divided because for the slide and all of the components of the slide, you want to go with a thinner viscosity silicone oil.
Yeah, because you don't want it too thick, so it ends up like kind of slowing down.
It kind of creates drag, right? But some people think in the fire controls you should go a little bit thicker. So like the sears and everything, that way it stays on the parts longer.
I guess the only counter to that point would be like, it stays on the parts longer, but if you get dirt in there, the dirt's going to be a lot more like, not caked on, but it's going to be a lot thicker in there as well.
Oh, yeah, it'll definitely get more caked up. I agree to this for gas blowback rifles.
Interesting, okay.
So, reason being is because with the gas blowback rifle trigger assembly, no matter which one you do, come on.
Gotta bash it.
It's my gun. I'll do whatever I want to it. But because the trigger assembly has more moving parts, you would want that to stay a little bit lubricated a little bit longer, so you don't have to worry about it as often as you would the nozzle.
Would you say it's a little bit more concealed compared to like the trigger assembly on, say, like a high cap or a gas blowback pistol? Like it's a little harder for dirt to get into that component compared to like a pistol, or do you think it's about the same?
In a sense, it definitely depends on the gun. So for the MWS here, there is an internal box that holds all the parts together,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a little bit more difficult to get dirt into the trigger unit itself. But that is just by itself. That's not including player fault of like, hey, I took a dive in dirt. I had a baseball
Had a
like
dolphin
baseball,
dive.
yeah, slide into this barricade to get the objective. That can easily, get in there. But I will say it is probably a little bit more safer because with a high cap or gas blowback pistol, the magazine well is a direct line to the trigger assembly. So if you were to drop your gun without a magazine in it, and that scoops up a lot of dirt, that could much easier get into your trigger group in the high cap or gas blowback pistol. Compared to here, if you drop it, there is going to be dirt that gets in through the gap of the upper and lower receiver, and there's going to be a little bit of dirt that gets through the trigger. But if it gets into the magazine well, it's going to be more so toward the front hammer assembly, which can work its way back into the trigger group, but it's not going to be as much contact compared to a gas blowback pistol.
Right. I guess my only thing like that it seems kind of like weird, like I guess to that point is that if the idea of a gas blowback is that you're supposed to go ahead and clean it more regularly, why would you want like something a little thicker to stay in there a little bit longer if you're going to end up cleaning it out regularly anyway? You know what I mean? I don't know. But that's why, again, myself and maybe a few other people would typically just go with like the aerosol cans, which I'll admit, like aren't like the best, right? In general, I know some people have their mixed opinions about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, they seem to do their job just fine.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, a lot of people that run gas blowback specifically, again, are just torn because some people say, oh, the aerosol's bad for the rubbers, the seals in the airsoft gun. And I was just like, very interesting.
Oh, okay. Like actually, I've actually haven't heard that one about being bad for the seals because, like, again, it is silicone oil at the end of the day. You are getting it on the rubber, which is supposed to lubricate it.
Yes, but I do believe it's because of the pressure. It comes out colder, I believe. I'm not sure the exact science behind it, but some people are saying that that's bad.
I figured we're not going to be able to get down to the bottom of it and find the like decisive answer because again, I'm sure people were arguing about this fucking 20 years ago.
Yep.
And they're still arguing about it today.
Yeah.
Right? It's like freaking the MP7 versus the P90. It's never going to find a true victor. I mean, P90, but like, semantics.
We're not going to find a victor. P90.
I mean,
regardless. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Me personally, if I happen to have silicone oil in like the spray can, I'll use it.
Sure.
It's very convenient to use. Like you just spray it on, wipe off the excess, and
it's cheap too.
Yeah, you're pretty much good to go. Me personally, if I can have the time to sit down and lubricate each individual part and clean it in detail, I actually like using just a regular drip bottle, just because with the aerosol silicone oil cans, it's really, really thin viscosity, like super thin.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. But I like having a little bit thicker viscosity.
Diet silicone oil.
So for
sorry,
diet silicone oil,
sugar-free silicone oil. There you go.
Sugar.
Silicone oil is zero. You know, like zero.
Okay. So the reason why I go for a thicker viscosity in the trigger assembly compared to the blowback housing and everything is because it typically doesn't get as dirty as all the other moving parts.
Yeah.
So the idea is you don't have to clean that as often.
That's like the one piece you can ignore every once in a while.
Yeah. So maybe like every other time you'll go in and clean that, just make sure everything's like in tip top shape.
Sure.
But for the bolt assembly, the inner barrel, the hop up unit, even the magazines, you're going to want to go in, clean out, and get re-lubricated to make sure all the rubber parts are keeping seals. That's definitely very important because if you're not lubricating your airsoft gun, and if you're using a not airsoft specific gas, they don't come pre-lubricated, and that will dry out all of the seals in your airsoft gun.
That was actually going to be our next. That's a good transition, by the way.
Oh, hey.
That was actually going to be my next question. Was like our next topic was going to be different types of propellant. So. Yes. Obviously, we're saying gas blowback, so we're referring to typically green gas. However, there are alternative forms of propellant out there that exist, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you guys have heard of like red gas, black gas as well.
Yep.
But the biggest one that I usually see like a lot of questions about is like propane.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so propane, from what we've seen and what we know, It is compatible with your gas blowback guns. Like you can get it to work. There are propane to green gas like tip like adapters that you can go ahead and use. We sell them online too, so if you want to, you can. However, I do notice that there is a pretty common trend where a lot of guns that would come in gas blowback pistols that would come in broken, where it be like loading nozzles broke, maybe the slides cracked. They just weren't really taken care of very well over time because you can see that they're accumulated dirt. They like 100% smelled like no doubt about it, like propane.
Yeah.
Like, so what might be going on there?
Okay, so for green gas, red gas, black gas, so these are all different airsoft specific propellants. Green gas is the standard in America.
Yeah.
Red gas is a little bit higher in PSI. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat or in the comments, but green gas is supposed to be sitting at about 120 PSI. Red gas is going to be anywhere from like 120 to like 160 PSI, I believe, maybe even 180. And then black gas is supposed to be
like the
greater
biggest.
than that.
It's like 200 something plus, right?
I think it starts off at like 200, maybe like 180 plus. So the reason all of these gases are a thing is because of weather. Because all of these gas blowback airsoft guns are relying on a pressurized gas, it is affected by the temperature that you are in dramatically.
Yeah, you ever heard that term summer's gas blowback weather? That there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
During the hotter seasons and whenever like the environment's in a warmer state, your gas efficiency is going to be a lot better. It's going to be a lot more compared to something like, or when you're playing in a colder environment, or if like, again, that's why you get that cool down effect too, right? Your magazines get so cold.
Just put this over here.
Yeah.
Eye candy.
Right there. I think we got it.
Can we balance it? Can we balance it? It won't balance.
That won't balance. Not perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's something in airsoft with gas blowback guns called the cool down effect. As you are shooting your gas blowback gun, no matter what it is, the faster that you are shooting through it, it's causing the gas to cool down. So it doesn't have as much time to expand. And the chemical reaction of, is it chemical or is it physics reaction? Just because the gas is being expelled in such a manner, the temperature drops.
I'm going to say chemical.
I'm not sure. It's more than likely
science. There you go.
Science. But yeah, the magazine will cool down because the gas is cooling down. And because the gas has cooled down to such an effect, it won't perform as optimally because the pressure that the gas is putting out isn't as much as it would be at the correct temperature that it should be.
Yeah.
That makes
sometimes
sense.
whenever, like, put it this way, like if you keep using the same magazine over and over and over again, right? Like you buy your first gas blowback airsoft gun, right, or pistol, and it's cool, great. I would say before you start heading off to the field and using that, like seriously, I would say invest in maybe a couple additional magazines as well. So let's say you're using the same magazine over and over again, round after round. What's going to end up happening? You're going to get this thing, right? You're shooting, bang, bang, bang. It's going to lock back, and you're just going to hear a all your gas just purged out. All of it.
Sometimes it doesn't even lock back. Sometimes the gun doesn't even cycle.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it'll be just like this, and the hammer go down and go. And you're like, oh, what the heck is going on?
What's going on? And then you think like, oh, it's broken, it's dead. When no, it's just the magazine itself. Yep. So it doesn't always mean that the mag is like donezo. You can always fix magazines. You can also buy replacement magazines. Available at airsoftgi.com. But
use coupon code 28
for 10% off, even if it's already on sale, so double savings. But with that in mind, again, you just don't want to go ahead and waste the magazine either, right? Or run the risk of end up like breaking your magazine because that's more money you have to spend.
Yeah, absolutely. So unlike AEGs, gas blowback gun magazines are much more expensive. This Tactical magazine, I believe, is like $30.
Yeah, the LM4 magazines, like on their own, are like $40 to $50.
Yeah, same thing with the MWS magazines. Just because there's a little bit more technology.
It's not even a high cap too. It's like 40 rounds.
Oh yeah, it's just because of the technology and all the parts that are used to make the magazine actually work. So now getting into other propellants. Other gases that are used in airsoft that aren't airsoft specific gases are going to be propane and CO2. CO2 you can't really use unless your gun is made for CO2. We'll just leave it at that.
I mean, okay, well, I'll explain a little more. Okay. There are like magazines, like aftermarket mags you can buy that are meant for that specific gun that will say, oh, CO2 instead, right? You can buy those. Like even we sell them. Let's be honest. We sell them.
No, we sell them, but we are a very big advocate of
not using them.
Yeah, or letting you know, hey, this is not made for your airsoft gun.
No, we've seen it far too many times where a customer bought a CO2 magazine for that specific gun and end up like causing way more wear and tear than like sooner than expected. It's gonna wear down regardless, right? Over time, like anything mechanical, just like a car, after a certain amount of time, things are gonna start wearing down, things are gonna start breaking. It's just a natural part of order, right? That's just what happens. But use CO2, and that's gonna happen way faster.
No, yeah. So here's the thing about using CO2 in a gas blowback gun that isn't made for CO2.
Yeah.
Because of the moving part, like this is probably a bad example because the Pit Viper is actually pretty well built.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this could take CO2.
Yeah.
But in a, like, let's say like $120 high Kappa, for instance, like a Golden Eagle, that's not really made for CO2. Because of the higher pressure, the slide is cycling back and forth. Well, sliding back faster. That's the main part.
And harder.
Yeah, and harder. So that's actually adding wear to the slide, adding wear to the guide rod, adding wear to the hop-up unit, the frame itself. This isn't like the AEG where the piston is just cycling faster. No, this is actually causing a harder impact because of the blowback feature, even in gas blowback rifles.
And even if it was like a Pit Viper too, right? I mean, I'm pretty confident in the Pit Viper in general, but like even brands like,
which by the way, they are back in stock. Grab yours right now. Use coupon code 20 to save 10% and get free shipping.
And you can enter into the shopping spree giveaway as well.
So that's right, baby.
But
it's about time these came back.
I know, right? Finally. But again, like even if it was like the beloved TM, right? The Tokyo Marui. You use a CO2 magazine, one of the like in a stock TM high Kappa. Yeah, that's just gonna explode.
Oh yeah, because the TM pistols use plastic slides.
Yeah,
plastic,
not polymer. Plastic.
That thing will break. Ask me how I know.
Did you actually?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I was about to say.
I have seen it happen though. Actually. So it's funny because Tokyo Marui pistols aren't even meant to be used on green gas.
Yeah, no, not at all. They're meant for duster gas, right?
Yeah, duster gas. I believe the chemical that it's called is like HFC 132A. I believe that's what it's called. So it's a lower pressure gas compared to green gas. Again, green gas being at about 120-ish PSI. I believe duster gas is going to be sitting around 100 PSI.
It's pretty low PSI comparatively. And again, that's for a reason because airsoft in Japan is played a little differently compared out to the States.
Oh, yeah.
Their FPS requirements are going to be much different than out here. We in the US, for whatever reason, just love everything to be like to the extreme, like hard hitting everything, right? Like we want this thing to kill someone. I don't know about getting kill someone, obviously, but we want these things to shoot as hard as they possibly can, right?
Within, field requirements.
Of course.
But yeah, so depending on the airsoft gun, again, there are airsoft guns that are made for CO2, like the Elite Force 19 Love Attack.
Love it.
The official licensed Glock 17.
Love it. Pretty much all the Glocks.
Yeah, actually, I think I was talking to one of the reps. Not reps at Elite Force. They were like, yeah, they're pretty much all using the same like system. Like they're all pretty reinforced.
Griff actually, he has the 19X, and he'll like routinely swap between CO2 and green gas.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely one of those that can definitely use both green gas and CO2, which is very nice. Like there are guns out there that can, like anything from KLI, their dual power system.
Pretty good.
I gotta see. Here's the thing. I personally love CO2.
Oh yeah, same.
It's just the kick is just
you can't beat it. It's so nice.
Especially with the KLI stuff. The Baba Yaga, again, the hardest gas, like kicking gas blowback pistol I have ever shot in airsoft.
And I've always been like a fanboy of the Elite Force 1911s. Those things are just built like tanks. I love how simple they are. The fucking tolerances are insane.
Like unless you drop it from a 2-story building. Remember that gun I talked about the last one?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Broke my hammer. Anyways, but yeah, so you want to be very cautious with running CO2. If your gun's made for CO2, great, go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
But typically, the CO2 is not made for an airsofter. It's like the Crossman CO2. There are brands that do make
Jag Arms, freaking. There's other brands out there,
but they're honestly just with their title on it. They're still made by like the same factory.
Yeah, they're just literally slapping the label on it.
Yeah, they're not like green gas where it is mixed in with silicone oil to help lubricate it. You have to lubricate your CO2. Honestly, just lubricate every gas blowback or something that you have regularly. There
is one thing I will add. This is kind of more like a smaller like niche that not too many people know about. Like when it comes to the designs of the cartridges that are used for CO2 guns, believe it or not, even though they're all 12 gram theoretically, they're not all the same size. So we actually noticed this with, especially with the KLIs. We were talking about the Baba Yaga a little bit.
Yep.
I remember we would receive a few I guess reviews from people saying that, hey, I tried putting the CO2 cartridge in and it would work.
Yep.
And I was like kind of confused because we would see it working with 12 gram CO2 cartridge with no issue whatsoever.
Yep.
Turns out like the Crossman or like the Daisy brand, pretty much all those like sporting good brand
The
CO2
easily
yeah, the
accessible
the most easily readily available like brands that were available for customers. Though the tip of the actual like cartridge itself, where it would insert into the magazine,
Yep.
that part was just a little too thick, a little too girthy, if you will,
Yeah.
to go ahead and fit in there, and it would end up causing a leak because it wasn't secure all the way through. It wasn't securely or tightened all the way.
It would just barely puncture
Yeah.
the CO2, and it wouldn't seat properly against the rubber O-ring to create the seal.
To avoid this, just to be safe, I would recommend picking up CO2 from, because we sell it. Pick up CO2 from Airsoft GI. Pick up brands like Puff Dino.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on and get Jag CO2 as well.
Yep.
That's readily available, and we've tested those with pretty much every CO2 gun here.
The Umarex CO2.
The only one pistol that like kind of says fuck it to everything and just accepts everything is going to be the Elite Force 1911.
Oh yeah,
and their M9.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, that just takes anything.
Yeah, their Glocks take it too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. Ask me how I know.
Hell yeah, you just put a crosshair in there and just say, "Oh, great."
Well, see, here's the thing. Back in the day,
Uh-huh.
before we started selling like LSA2, I'd buy like the bulk boxes from like Walmart.
Oh yeah, same.
And I still have like a ton of them. I probably have like 100 cartridges or something. So yeah, I mean, I haven't ran out. So, but again, that is something that you need to be aware with. Just making sure that you are lubricating your airsoft gun, and especially with CO2s, check for wear more often as well.
I would say with propane as well.
Yeah. So, getting into propane is roughly the same PSI as green gas.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing a while ago that like, oh, the chemical composition of propane and green gas are the same, just green gas has silicon. I don't know. I didn't look that deep into it. Okay. What I will say though is, again, propane is not an airsoft specific gas.
Mm-hmm.
This means that there is no lubricant in it.
Yeah.
On top of that, because propane is such a highly flammable gas, manufacturers have added a safety feature of propane or to propane where they add a perfume. It smells like ass. Yeah, it smells disgusting. They made it that way, so you're like,
no, exactly.
Oh, there's propane leaking somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, my barbecue grill is leaking. What's going on, right?
Oh, that's a clean smelling propane. Anyway,
which, if you don't know, like the perfume burns off when you're cooking. That's why you don't smell it. But the main thing is, again, it's not a airsoft made gas. You can use it for airsoft. I have used propane for a long time.
On our website, we do sell propane adapters specifically for use with gasoline magazines to go ahead and fill them up. And again, we've all done it at some point or another, right? But I will say, I feel like, because there is no lubricant in there, I feel like people seem to forget that, hey, I need to go in there even more now and like lube it up even more and clean it even more. I get it. Like propane is going to be very cheap. You buy like the $5 like Coleman freaking like containers.
$5 gets you 2 cans.
Yeah, $5 gets you 2 cans.
And each can is probably like 2.5 cans of green gas, depending on the can.
Yeah. So it's very it's very tempting. It's very alluring. I totally get it. You want to save a little bit of money when you can. Because like even us, right? Like we keep our prices fair, but a can of Puff Down of green gas that's $16, and it should last you a day of play. But it is kind of tempting to be like, I could buy this propane that'll last me several days. I don't have to go back to the store or anything, and it's literally like $5 and I can get 2 of them.
Yep. So okay, I have used propane for a very extended period of time, and here are the experiences that I had with propane. So number one, you do have to lubricate your gun much more frequently.
Sure.
Not just the gun, but the magazine itself.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna need to lubricate the fill valve.
You guys didn't know this. Mags also need lube.
Yeah. You're gonna need to lubricate the fill valve, the release valve, the top gasket up here to make sure that it stays like loose, not getting dry and cracked out.
It's like a condom, right? Why would you want? You need to have a little bit of lube on there just to make sure it's actually working.
What?
Don't use dry rubbers.
Why did you do that comparison, Isaiah?
It's everyone knows. Come on.
We have children viewers, Isaiah.
Ask your parents what that means. Anyway.
But yeah, you're also going to want to lubricate all of the rubber inside the gun as well, being the piston head or the O-ring that's on the piston head in the blowback housing, the hop-up unit or the hop-up bucking specifically.
Yeah.
And then if you have like rubber washers, you're gonna want to like touch up on those as well.
Rubber lube.
Yeah, pretty much. So because again, propane doesn't have any silicone oil, it dries things out much quicker. But I'm not sure if it's because of the perfume that's added. I have noticed comparing green gas, using green gas for a full day and comparing propane for a full day, that my airsoft gun, when using propane, gets a little bit more gunky.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that is. That could be me adding more lubricant to compensate for the lack of lubricant.
But it might be too much, you think?
So maybe that is, but that is just something that I've always noticed. And it doesn't bother me, but at the same time, it kind of tells me that there's something obviously different.
Okay, so in your mind, right, like summing it all up, do you feel like it's worth it to run propane?
So when I was running propane,
because I'm listening to all this and it's just and seeing all the guns that come back to us sometimes when that need to be fixed, I just like fuck no, it's not worth it.
Yeah. So yes, when I was running propane, I was trying to be as cost effective as possible.
Sure.
And I was running both a gas blowback pistol and a gas blowback rifle, so I was burning through green gas
much faster than the regular player.
Exactly. So, I will say that if you run gas blowback specific, it is an option for you. Would I personally recommend it? Because of my experiences with it, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Like I just personally wouldn't. I think spending a little bit of the extra money to get green gas that'll help protect.
It's designed for it.
Yeah, that'll help protect and lubricate your airsoft gun along the way as you're shooting it. Is just worth the insurance that you kind of get.
Also, no one's ever gonna like when you pull up to the field and you start filling up your magazines. If you use green gas, you're never gonna get the who farted. That is like the number one thing you would always get at the field, even as a kid, right? I'd literally smell like, who took a dump, man? Like fucking did fucking flush.
Oh yeah, no, purging your mags or shooting an airsoft gun next to somebody that's really close, like, your gun smell like booty.
You know who did, actually, funny story. You know who did that to us? Like me and my friends during an airsoft event. Freaking Demo.
Really?
We were like sitting next. Yeah, we went to like this. It was a long time ago. The Tronics used to do an event in at Hollywood Sports, right? So we're like, screw it, we'll go. Why not, right?
Yeah.
This is one of our first events we ever went to, and like he was sitting right next to us, and all of a sudden you just hear a right. I was like, oh, okay, someone's mag is leaky. But then you just hear everyone, like 50 people collectively went, and he's like, I'm sorry, y'all. I had to do it. It's so much cheaper. I have to.
No, I mean, I get it. I definitely understand it because I was doing that as well. But luckily the guns that I was using it on were guns that were more cost effective.
Yeah.
So I didn't put too much money into it. So I knew that if something went wrong, I'd be okay with the loss, right? Which, no, they're still both working. That's good.
Yeah.
I do remember
unscathed.
I do remember. Well, I do remember the guns having problems. Specifically, my 1911. It was a WE 1911.
Sure.
And it just started having cycling issues.
Okay.
Like no matter what I did, it just would continue to mess up. And it's funny because I had a 1911 specifically that I was using with propane, and then I had my other one that I would lend out and give people green gas to use with it. I'm like, that's the only gas that you're going to use with it.
Yeah.
Do not touch this green can with the yellow tip. Do not touch it. And that one still runs pretty smooth.
Okay.
So, I mean, at the time, I don't think I was maintaining my airsoft guns as well as I do now. There are definitely things that I have implemented over the years that I'd learned about that I get more detailed in cleaning. So could it just be natural wear and tear and negligence of not cleaning it properly? Yes. But knowing that I had that green gas pistol that still is running relatively smooth, even today, is the telling sign.
Yeah. What would you say then? Like, I think we've covered a pretty good amount, but I know there's got to be a few more. What would you say are some other big no-nos when it comes to gas blowback guns? Went over, you don't use bad BBs. Went over like actually lubricating properly.
Yep.
Went over knowing the spec of the actual gun's internals. I think Oh yeah, and then of course, like the different types of propellants that are out there.
You want to know something that you shouldn't do with your gas
Oh
gun?
yes.
That.
Why did you do that?
It's my magazine, so I'll pay for it later. So releasing the gas in one go from your magazines is a big no. Honestly, I'm disappointed that I did it for myself, but I wanted to
demonstrate. He's doing it for you people. The sacrifices this man makes.
I'm gonna have to repair this $50 magazine eventually. But so when you do this, you get a dramatic cool down of the gas. What we talked about before.
Yeah, your mag is gonna be freezing over.
So because it's all being funneled through the release valve, any of the rubber parts there have a higher chance of freezing over, causing it to dry out, causing it to crack eventually and need to be replaced, like repaired. And that is definitely a big no-no. Do not do that at all.
Yeah, I guess that's actually one question I completely forgot about. Is they'll say like, okay, what happens if because magazines will hold both the BBs and house the gas reservoir. They go through and cycle an entire magazine and they still have gas left. A lot of people will ask, well, should I get rid of it? Should I leave it? Is it going to ruin the magazine if I leave green gas inside of the gun? And to that I say, no, actually you should leave a little bit of green gas in there. Because again, there is silicone oil that's going to help lubricate all the seals there. That's what you want. Yeah,
absolutely. So when you are done for the day, if you are able to go to the chrono area or somewhere safe to shoot,
or even ask the ref, hey, can I go on the field real quick?
Yeah, and just dump my magazines, and then just go dump them naturally. Do a full auto mag dump, even though I wouldn't say do that consistently, because you're still releasing gas in a very fast way. It's much better than just doing it one at a time. Just go ahead and dump them. If you do need to do that, do it in small sprints.
Like, usually what I do is like, I'll hold my thumb real hard. Taylor taught me this trick, like where you just press it real hard against the gasket.
This man don't care about his thumbs.
no, like when you do it like that, like when you press real hard, it doesn't get cold.
Oh yeah, it's not expanding as well. Yeah. So yeah, that is definitely a way that you could do it as well.
Little taps.
Just dispersing it in a way so it the gas doesn't liquefy, because it is a liquid in the magazine. You just don't want it to be shooting out as a liquid. That's just bad, because again, that
liquid was the bad guy in Metal Gear Solid. Remember that.
That it'll just freeze everything, causing it to dry out. It's just think of like a freezer burned steak.
You said freeze that. I'm just thinking about Dragon Ball Z now.
You clown.
Okay, but serious question though. What would happen if you left? Because I've never done it before. Just out of fear, right? What would happen if you had a fully loaded magazine? Not BBs, but like the gas reservoir is completely full. What would happen if you left it?
So that's a good question. So if you had a fully loaded magazine full of green gas, what could happen is that the seal will just warp over an extended period of time. And when you're releasing it, shooting it, what could happen is that it's formed in a way where it's not creating a seal anymore. And when you shoot it for the first time and it releases, because it's warped, it won't sit properly.
Okay.
And then it'll just be leaky.
Okay.
So that's something that can happen. How do I know? Because I do this all the freaking time, man. I'm terrible at this. I suck at least. Actually, it's funny because yesterday when we did the range test of the Mark II, I had my Lonix mags, and I've left those loaded since NorCal BB Wars.
Bro, those are Lonix mags. They don't make those anymore.
Yeah. You want to know what's crazy about that? Because I left them loaded before that. From I don't even know how long.
Like BB Wars Texas.
Maybe
we don't know.
It's possible. Yeah, no, I'm very terrible at that. And it's funny because like the first 2 shots were misfeeding. I was like, I don't care. Spring tension is definitely a thing. But no, yeah, that's definitely something you want to do. Even like that goes into the whole of the topic. Do whatever you will about your spring tension. If you want to leave them loaded or not, that's up to you. But it is very beneficial for you to leave a little bit of green gas in your magazine while storing. So you mind handing me that can of green gas right now?
Yeah.
So this magazine I just dumped on camera for you guys. So for storing, this is how I was taught, and doing this has actually like preserved the life of my magazines very dramatically compared to the way I was storing it before, leaving it completely empty. So what you're gonna want to do is act as if you were going to fill up the magazine. That's it.
That's literally all you need to do.
That's all you need to do. There should be a little bit of gas in here. See? And that's enough to hold the seals in place without applying too much pressure on all of the like O-rings and seals and stuff. So that will help preserve the magazine. There's still again a little bit of silicone oil there to keep it lubricated, and you know it's going to be good for maybe like
notice his
a month or
technique
so.
as well. His technique was absolutely flawless, because that's another question we get too. How do we fill a gas magazine, right? It's a very easy question.
I'm actually glad we brought that up, because I see motherfuckers break their shit on the first try.
Yeah, no, it happens. Even with me, like when the customer will buy a gun right in the store, they'll want to, hey, can I use your range to shoot and mess around? Of course, absolutely. Which, by the way, you're more than welcome to do. 2107 Common Twist Drive there. Just saying. But anyway, whenever you go in and fill up,
he said the address, but that was so fast. 21077 Commerce Point Drive, Walnut, California 91789.
9. There you go.
I
remember the zip.
And since we're doing plugs, all of the airsoft guns that we have here are available at airsoftjam.com.
Yes.
You can use coupon code 20th.
Get an additional 10% off.
Yeah, to get an additional 10% off. And you could stack it with the free shipping. You could stack it with existing discounts on products already.
As long as it's not a shocker deal.
Yeah, and enter the shopping spree giveaway. Just huge savings and winnings waiting for you guys.
So when you are filling up your magazine, I've noticed that there are a lot of people who will just, again, it makes sense, right? There's usually some type of fill valve where you would want, or inlet where you would want to go ahead and fill it with gas. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You do have to do it in a certain way. And what I mean by that is you have to do it in a very particularly straight fashion. If you were to do it at, say, an angle of any kind, that is actually a very easy and fast way to guarantee a rip in your seal. Yeah, because like again, remember, you have to remember there is rubber,
or breaking the stem,
itself. That's another one too. I didn't even think of. But there is rubber inside of here. Rubber versus metal, because these green gas tips, they're metal. The metal's gonna win.
Yep.
So I might as well go and fill. When you fill it, just make sure it's perfectly straight. You're not doing it at an angle, and just like that, it fills up. Yep. Very easy. You don't have to go ahead and do anything else at that point.
So I will actually. Could you hand me just like one of the range magazines?
Oh yes,
I will show you guys something and give you guys some tips on how to fill your magazines. Oh, give me a booty one.
Oh,
give me like a disgusting one that's been beat around.
High cap or mid cap?
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
I'm just gonna use it to press the nozzle against. Yeah, this is pretty jank. So something that you want to do is actually perfectly align the fill needle with the fill valve. So if you look down on the inside, there is the fill valve. You'll see a larger outer ring, a darker center that is recessed, or a darker ring inside of that, and then the needle that's poking out dead center. What you're going to want to do is put that inner needle in here in the center of this. So you're just going to eyeball it, and again, what Isaiah said, you're going to want to press down on that until it creates a seal. Now, depending on your airsoft gun, it may or may not fill like this. Tokyo Marui magazines don't have that O-ring on the inside of the fill valve. And what happens is it'll spray out. It'll look a little similar to this. And this isn't a gas magazine, I'm just demonstrating. So it'll look like that. It's spraying out. Actually, you can see the frost there, which is bad for the airsoft gun.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have the O-ring there, it'll spray out a little bit. That is the design of the Tokyo Marui fill valve, because once it starts spraying out droplets of gas, that's when you know the gas is or the magazine is completely full of gas. Now, what can happen with some airsoft guns, I know G&G magazines tend to do this. This is how you do it properly. Just slowly. Okay, I'm going to stop because that's way too much gas. I filled it up too much. So you know what? I'm going to do it on here. So what happens? This is actually a thing that happens again. I said on G&G magazines, but it happens on a lot of airsoft guns that have the O-ring on the fill valve. What happens is, because there's a tight seal on the fill valve between this and the green gas, there's regular air sitting in the magazine.
Yeah, and it can build up and basically prevent you from getting a full tank of gas.
Yeah, exactly. So we call this purging the magazine. You're purging the magazine of all the excess air. So what you do is you press down on the release valve of the magazine
as you're filling it.
As you're filling it. So right before you do it, just press down on it, and then you'll see.
Oh, your leg.
I know.
I don't want you to freeze your leg off.
It's fine. So I'm just destroying the fuck out of this magazine. So you'll see the gas is pouring out. What it is, it's pushing out all of the normal air, and it's going to be pure green gas that's going to be sitting in the magazine. So you're just going to do it for like a split second.
And typically how you can tell when it's actually going, like, and it's actually gas that's coming out, and you've purged out all air, like excess air that's built up inside. You good?
That was cold.
All the excess air that's inside is that the gas coming out, it's not going to be clear when you're hearing it. It's going to be white.
Yep. Yeah, so as you saw, this doesn't have that O-ring on the fill valve, which is why you saw the gas kind of spray out.
Yeah.
And it was frosted. I was going to try and show you, but it already like warmed up a little bit because it's kind of warm in here. But now the magazine itself doesn't have any regular air sitting in the magazine.
Yeah.
So it's completely full of green gas, so you can maximize the volume of gas that you are actually using in the magazine.
Sometimes that can happen. If you don't do that, like, again, you have to bear in mind, like, that can happen when you get like a brand new gun, you get like a magazine that's just completely empty.
Yep.
Right? Like, just straight from the factory, that can happen. Or if you've used the magazine literally till the last drop of green gas, you can get air that's inside of that. That's totally normal, and that's why we encourage you guys to go ahead and purge your magazines as you're filling them.
Yep. Yeah. Just prolongs the life of the airsoft gun, or like the use of airsoft gun on the field. Again, because it's holding more gas. Like when you don't purge magazines, what happens is it's not holding as much gas, and then you're not getting as many shots out that you could be getting out of your magazine.
Yeah. Not only that, I think there was one more not to do with the magazine specifically, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember what it was.
Well, I mean, we talked about lubricating it.
We
talked about using good quality BBs, because if you use terrible BBs, it could get into the track there. That could mess it up. Talked about how to fill it.
I mentioned it. I said it once. This is actually the point that I was going to say. I had mentioned it just briefly beforehand, but using the same magazine over and over again. Yeah. So, like, again, I get it. You just bought your first gas bullet gun, your first gas bullet pistol. I'm going to say it again. You should be buying more than one magazine for your pistol or your rifle, whatever platform you run. You should be buying more than one magazine. Just to go ahead and avoid using the same one over and over again, because that is a for sure way to go ahead and get that cooldown effect that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So this is going to happen more in terms of just like plinking around in like your backyard or something, compared to being on the airsoft field.
I mean, it can still happen on the field too. I've seen like a lot of new beginners and like fresh like newbies on the field, right, where they only have the one, like their AG's out of ammo, right?
Yep.
And they're like, okay, I have a gas black magazine that I really want to use. So they'll have the one magazine. So whenever they run out, they're like, oh, reloading. I'm like, oh, he's changing mags. I look over,
and then he's filling it
like with a speed loader. Yeah,
but I don't think it. I mean, maybe it depends on the tenacity of the player who is using the singular magazine, but I don't think it would be as frequent as it would be just backyard plinking. Because on the field, when you're actively aiming, you're shooting, trying to find.
Oh, I never said it was a good idea. I was just saying what I noticed.
No, yeah, but there's going to be a little bit of time in between magazines from filling it and stuff. But when you're backyard plinking, you're going to, you're going to shoot the gun until it runs dry. And then like, okay, let me just fill it up with BBs, fill it up, and then immediately go back into shooting it with maybe like 30 seconds in between, like the magazine being empty. Doing that in succession over a certain period of time can dramatically cool down the magazine, and it could just affect its performance dramatically. Now, doing this in the long run, how will it affect your airsoft gun? Because it's colder, the gas is going into the gun colder, which means it's more liquid. So it could do the freezing effect on all of the seals on your airsoft gun and magazine. That could be long-term detrimental. In short term, in that situation, you won't get as many shots off out of the one magazine after like the fifth magazine compared to the first fill of green gas and BBs. So I agree with Isaiah. Definitely get more magazines that you could cycle through. So that way, like, hey, I use this one. Okay, let me let that one cool down. Let me use this magazine. Shoot. Or not cool down, but warm up.
Yeah.
And then eject. Okay, cool. Let me load this one back up now and then use that. That way, again, to prevent long-term problems for not only your magazine, but for your airsoft gun.
Yeah. I think, for the most part, we've actually pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
All the biggest, at the very least. All the biggest, what not to do's with your gas bullet gun. I'm sure there's like a million other things that you shouldn't be doing, like that, are just pretty obvious. Like, don't run it over with your car. Don't smack it against a tree.
Yeah, of course.
Don't, use it to go ahead and like stir your soup,
Yeah. I mean, even though like gas blowback guns are meant to be manipulated like a real firearm, don't treat it like a real firearm.
Yeah.
Don't go like ham, like the charging, and like, oh my god, get him. Like,
because you can still break a charging handle even on a gas leg gun. It's still possible to do.
Yeah, it's just you're still gonna want to give a little bit more delicate, a delicate touch to the airsoft gun. Again, you can run it harder, like how it's supposed to be ran, but don't abuse it.
I would say if there's one piece on the airsoft gun that you definitely don't want to abuse, it's gonna be the magazine. That's always gonna be my number one. Like, baby the magazine. You want to abuse the gun? Fine, go for it. Just take care of the magazine at the very least. Because this is like, again, $50 for a 42 round magazine.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the more that I think about it, there are definitely parts in the gun that you don't want to abuse.
No, of course.
But these are the ones that can be abused the easiest.
Yeah.
Because it's the magazine. It detaches from the gun. It might drop out of your
No tack reloads with a gas leg rifle
you
mag.
speed reload that into the wall. You know, like these can easily be abused, and they are more fragile than you think. If you drop this from a certain height and it takes a certain amount of impact,
it will break.
Warp the shell. It could break it. It could cause like a leak that can never be repaired. And then again, you're going to be out of a $50 magazine that you're going to need to replace. Just be wary. Be cautious with your airsoft gun. Treat it with respect and care for it, and it will care for you and get you the kills on the airsoft field.
Kind of like a real gun, but not on the airsoft field.
Yeah.
Oh, well then.
Okay.
You want to talk about it?
No.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys. My name is Cisco.
My name is Isaiah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Range Talk Podcast, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Take it easy, guys.
Peace, y'all.
Gonna hold it still? It never tells me a time, like how long I'm supposed to be looking at the camera for.
What are you doing?
What?
We ended. What are you talking to them for?
I don't know.